And now, you're tuned in to All Factors Considered. Here are your hosts, Derick G and AJ.
What's going on, folks? Welcome back to another episode of All Factors Considered. We're coming down from the madness that was UFC 262, and we're heading straight into UFC Fight Night 188. And I do want to let you know that's how we're going to be talking about these events from here on forward. You know, using the Fight Night name as opposed to the UFC Vegas or UFC on, ESPN or whatever the case may be, right? But nonetheless, folks, let me bring in my co-host, AJ, man. AJ, what's going on, brother? Back again with another week, man. I got some news that I want to get off right off the bat, and I want your take on it, AJ. Really quickly, okay? So I'm going to start off. So the first thing that I got for you, folks, is a fan favorite. You know, one of the most popular fighters that is talked about on this program that seems like she never fights is coming back in the very, very near future, AJ. So Tatiana Suarez, 115-pound monster, right? No longer in the rankings because, inactivity will do that to you. She's been out more or less like 2 years. She has been medically cleared, and she is interested in a bout with Andrea KGB Lee at 125 pounds, actually, for her return bout. So basically her plan is she wants to go and test the waters at 125 for a little bit and then, move back down to 115. But I'm just happy that she's trying to be active. I'm happy that she's just trying to get back into the swing of things. And after Andrea Lee's very impressive win against Antonina Shevchenko, man, that could be a banger. What do you think? Tell me what your thoughts on that are.
Derick, when you sent me this article, off of screen, man, I was just so excited because we've been talking about Tatiana Suarez. I feel like it's the most name I bring up, man. Every time I hear about a woman fighter who's like, or a fight that I am excited for, I'm always talking about Tatiana Suarez, man. I'm exuberant, bro. I'm so happy to see this girl fight because, like you said, it's been a long layoff and we're on the AFC camp, bro. We're hyped. I'm hyped personally. I'm excited to see where she goes, especially taking that outlook of switching up to the 125. Mixing it up, there's no problem with it, especially when you're young. You can still make that weight and then cut back down to 115. We've seen it play out well, so I'm super excited for the future and what it has to bring. Derick, what do you think?
Well, listen, man, I think that she's going to add a new element to her game because not only does she get a little bit of time off, right? So you're not really dealing with the injuries and dealing with all of the wear and tear that comes into constantly doing your thing. But also, man, I think that she's a future champion at 115 pounds. So to see what she could do at 125, maybe she's a little more vibrant. Nonetheless, the point is she said that she does plan on going back to 115. Now, that is not our only piece of news. I got two more pieces for you. So this one's very quickly, man. But Jacare Souza, man, Ronaldo Souza, after suffering a very crucial arm break, first submission loss of his career, after suffering that, he has now been released from his UFC contract. And he has been released from his UFC contract after going a combined 16-8 between UFC and Strikeforce, man. And he won the 185-pound Strikeforce title by submitting Robbie Lawler via rear naked choke in round 3 back in 2011, man. So clearly it is in with the new, out with the old in the UFC. It's tragic. You hate to see it, man, but that is part of the game. AJ, do you got any takes for me on that?
Nah, man, his last fighting was a rough break, and it's rough to get cut like that. That's about it, really.
Literally, rough break. Literally right there. Last thing that I got for you, and this is AJ, man, this is just, we don't talk about it on this program because simply, why do we need to talk about this? Diego Sanchez and the Josh Fabia Chronicles seem like they have come to an end. I just wanted to point this out. So Diego Sanchez just put out a statement saying that all power of attorney that Josh Fabia had over him has now been rescinded, terminated. And for me to hear Josh Fabia, guru, mentor, trainer, coach, had power of attorney over a grown-ass man in Diego Sanchez is very troubling. But the good note here, the positivity that we're going to take from here is that, listen, man, you got to get these parasites out of your camps. You got to get the negative spaces out of your camps. Give me something quick, AJ, and then let's jump into some sleepers.
Derick, I don't know if you follow Hoodville on Instagram. Shout out Hoodville, but those clout demons are out there, brother, and they ain't just women. All right, so I'm so happy to see the boy from New Mexico's out and about again.
Yeah, man, they definitely not all just women, man. They probably majority are men, man. Some weirdos who are really out here just, clout chasing, man. But you know what time it is, AJ. UFC Fight Night 188, Rob Font versus Cody Garbrandt. Let's get into some sleepers, AJ.
It's time for some fight night.
If you ain't paying attention, you're gonna sleep on me and I'm gonna wake you up.
All right, AJ, start us off. Who's your first sleeper for UFC Fight Night 188?
I love to, brother. Thank you. My first sleeper is Damir Ismagulov versus Rafael Alves. All right. Now, Damir Ismagulov, he's up and coming, man. He's new to the sport. Well, not new to the sport, new to the UFC, excuse me. But this dude's walking in with 12 KOs. All right. Rafael Alves, kind of been in the game the same amount. It's his UFC debut. He came in through the contender series, got a quick guillotine choke, But man, I'm excited for this fight because of Damir Ismagulov, and this is a sleeper to me because these two fighters are very little knowledge about them, but they can bang. All right, Derick, it's going to be very exciting. Who's your first sleeper?
Well, first, I just want to point out, folks, Damir Ismagulov is the largest favorite on the card. He is a minus 575 favorite with a plus 425 comeback for Rafael Alves, man. So that will be something to watch because Damir Ismagulov is a beast, right? But for my sleeper, for my first one, I'm going to talk about a couple of 145ers. So what do we have here is a Aussie, man, a tough Kiwi, and Josh Kulabau, and he's making his third trip to the octagon, to the UFC, against an individual who's coming up out of, those kind of China leagues that we was talking about just a couple events back, the Wars, WARS, or whatever the case may be. This individual's name is Xiaonan, and forgive me if that's not the correct pronunciation. I've only heard this man's name been spoken in like Chinese, right? Nonetheless, this dude's got a 74% finish rate, 19-6 overall, 9 knockouts, 5 submissions. He's a real deal finisher, folks, and that's why I'm really excited for this fight as a sleeper, because he's a real deal finisher making his UFC debut, and he already has a win against a veteran in Alexei Oleinik, man. So it's something that's kind of interesting. It's one of those things where it's like, well, how did that happen? I don't know. Nonetheless, Josh Kulabau, man, he's game. The man never quits on himself. Sneaky fast hands and deceptive power. In his last fight, he fought to a split decision draw against Charles Air Jordan. And listen, man, this is going to be one of those bangers. He finally gets to fight somebody his size. He had to fight Jalen Turner in his debut, and, Air Jordan in his next fight, man. This is going to be a little more leveling the playing field. So watch out for that sleeper, folks. AJ, give me your next one.
That's right. And pay attention to that name, Kulabau, man. It's going to be up and coming for a while. But my next sleeper is Yancy Medeiros versus Damir Hadzovic. All right. Now, a little opposite from my last sleeper where these guys weren't known. And to me, when I saw this one, Yancy Medeiros on the prelims, like, come on, where are we? What year is this now? And if you don't know Yancy Medeiros, this dude is an absolute bomber. Okay. He's been around, man, the UFC since about 2014, 2013, something like that. And he's been killing it ever since. He has some ups and downs. Fighting the 155-pound division, it's going to happen. But if you haven't heard Damir Hadzovic yet, man, there is a reason why they call him the Bosnian Bomber. He's on a little bit of a rough streak, but with 7 KOs, he can easily turn that around very quickly. This fight is going to be fireworks in the 155-pound division. Tune in because this one is going to be crazy. Who's your last sleeper, Derick?
Right on, man. I'm going to finish it off, and I'll make this one quick. This is a welterweight contest between Court McGee and Claudio Silva, and this is going to be a banger because Court McGee is facing a 3-fight losing skid right now. We know this dude is tough as nails. We know this dude is game as ever, and we know that he brings the fight every single fight. Now, he's fighting Claudio Silva, who was on a 13-fight win streak before losing his last outing, man. So it's one of those situations where Claudio Silva can walk forward with reckless abandon because this man believes in his Brazilian jiu-jitsu. He's a black belt. He's a savage. He's a beast. That's why I love talking about these fighters. And listen, he's looking to get back into that win column, man. It never can feel good losing a big winning streak like that. And what happened when Gregor Gillespie, he lost his crazy streak, came back with a vengeance, man. Do not write these people off due to one loss. And like I said, man, when you got a dude who is fighting for his UFC contract in Court McGee, doesn't want to get cut after 3 losses in a row, and a dude who's trying to get back in the win column, that means fireworks. So listen, man, Slavers deep on this card. It's going to be a great card overall, folks, but definitely tune into that. And AJ, I think you know what that means. That's it for the Slavers. Let's get into the real business at hand, right?
Here's to another main card breakdown, courtesy of your hosts, Derick G and AJ.
That's right, AJ. So we're going to start off with the middleweight contest, and I think this is going to be the second event in a row where we say, wow, how did we get this fight to open up the main card, right? Nonetheless, we got the Joker. Number 7th ranked Jack Hermansson is facing off against number 10th ranked Edmen, the Golden Boy Shahbazyan. This is actually a really good fight, AJ. Like, seeing this thing get matched up, I'm like, wow, this is crazy. But this is not as good of it's like a good fight on paper. It's a good fight. If you're just like a fan of these fighters, but if we're talking about matchups, I don't think this is a good fight at all for one of these fighters, AJ. So let's start this thing off, man. This is my take on this, AJ. Let me set the table up really fast. We have a very experienced Jack Hermansson, Jack the Joker Hermansson, who has roughly about 27 fights in his career. This is an individual ranked number 7 in the middleweight division right now. And if you look at his last 5, he's fought Marvin Vettori, who's about to fight for a championship in his next fight, Kelvin Gastelum, big-time middleweight player, Jared Cannonier, big-time middleweight player, Jacare Souza, and David Branch. Just when I rattle off those names, you hear, oh, that's experience. That's like top-level dudes, basically 1 through 15, something like that, right? Now, when we talk about Edmen Shahbazyan, he had a very, very fast rise that saw a very, very abrupt halt when he ran into the buzzsaw who is known as Derek Brunson, right? So lost to Derek Brunson. He got knocked out for the first time in his career, first loss of his career. But he has a big win over Brad Tavares, Jack Marshman, who, really has just been kind of padding people's records for, the past couple of years. Charles Bird, that's big. Either Charles Bird or Chris Bird, whatever his name is. And then Darren Stewart. So that's big, but it's a different caliber, AJ. So I just wanted to start it off there. Give me your take on the experience differential between these two fighters, because this is not the same caliber of fighter.
No, yeah, Derick, you're very correct. Especially like you said, man, Jack Hermansson, he's been fighting killers for a very long time, and at the top of the heap. I mean, just look at that Kelvin Gastelum. Who else taps Kelvin Gastelum in what, like less than a minute or some crazy stuff? But even Edmen Shahbazyan, man, he's been fighting some killers, but not to the level. Like you got the Brad Tavares, you got the Derek Brunson, even Charles Bird. It's a great win, but it's not necessarily that top of the heap kind of opponent that's going to mix it up. And the biggest difference is every fighter in the UFC is absolutely dangerous. The difference is those top of the heap fighters are dangerous at every single aspect of the game. So where you can get away with, not the sharpest striking or not the sharpest ground game, can't do that anymore when you're facing fighters like Hermansson or any of the ones that he's been fighting. You do that to Marvin Vettori, and even if you get humped to the whole round, you're still losing the fight. So it's definitely levels to this game, and the levels that Hermansson has been fighting are definitely top of the heap, whereas Shahbazyan a little lower.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you there. And I think that you made a very a succinct point when you just noted out, like, these top guys, yeah, they're balanced. They're good everywhere, right? Like, they could strike well, except Derek Brunson, right? That striking is a little so-so. But, you could strike very well, but you can also wrestle. You can also grapple very well. And that's where I see this fight going, man. Jack Hermansson openly says, listen, my ground and pound is the best in the middleweight division. Nobody can touch my ground and pound. And let's just recap what happened when Derek Brunson fought Edmen Shahbazyan in their last fight. What happened, man? So basically, Shahbazyan has all the luck on the feet, right? Like, you got the big right hand coming over the top, man. This dude, he could really knock your lights out with one shot. But as soon as that thing got to the ground, it was game over. So this is Kevin Holland versus Derek Brunson, Kevin Holland versus Marvin Vettori, and I've had to do a lot of reflecting, AJ, just because I'm a big fan of Kevin Holland. I believe we both are, right? And just because I think he's a good prospect and whatnot. And I thought that these fighters like a Vettori and a Brunson should have beat them at a more, just kind of beat them more, if that makes sense. A more devastating, right? It wasn't devastating enough. A win is a win, man. And that's the thing, is like, you can't knock these dudes for just doing the boring thing and getting the win. So if that's Jack Hermansson's approach, which it probably will be, because the man doesn't want to lose again. I don't see this being the most exciting fight, but I definitely see this as like if you're Edmen Shahbazyan, who's your manager? You know what I'm saying? Like, who's your camp? Like, why did we sign up for this fight? You know what I mean? Because the last thing you want to do is take a young prospect and then just start putting them on these losing streaks, loss after loss after loss. You're going to start putting them, like, losing confidence and things of that nature. Now, let's just talk about, instead of the downside, let's talk about how this matchup is going to play out, man. What are the odds that Edmen Shahbazyan can keep this fight standing up on the feet for the majority of the fight? This dude does have a 58% takedown defense. Not the best, but it's something. So give me your thoughts, AJ.
I mean, 58% takedown defense sounds nice, but I think the biggest problem that at least I noticed in Shahbazyan's last fight against Derek Brunson, it wasn't the takedowns that were the biggest problems. It was that he couldn't handle Brunson's power. He literally felt Brunson hit him once, and that was it. Like, he came back. He came back a little bit with a vengeance. I think it was either the first or the second, but he started to wither as the fight went on and just wasn't able to deal with what was in front of him. And that led to the takedown. That led to the ground and pound. It was a start of the end once he felt Brunson's power. And I think that's going to be the big key for Hermansson. Even if he's able to take him down, he has to be able to hurt Shahbazyan in order to, like, demoralize him, take that will from him. Like our homie, David Goggins says, got to take his soul. And if Hermansson can take Shahbazyan's soul by just keeping him on the ground, beating him up, it's going to be a long night. I really don't think Shahbazyan has much of an option here. You know what I'm saying? I think Shahbazyan has to do the kind of the opposite effect and actually take down Hermansson. I think that's how it's going to be, because if he wants to keep this standing, it's going to be a long night, because we know Hermansson can do all of it. He can fight on the ground, he can fight standing, but if Shahbazyan wants to keep it standing, I think it's going to be about, I'd say 60% chance that he's going to get, that it's going to the ground. It's more likely than not that they're going to end up on the ground for the whole fight. What do you think, Derick? What's your percentage?
Well, I think it's really interesting because Edmen Shahbazyan, like one of the other things that I found from watching film studies, that he doesn't fight well off of his back foot. You know, when you pressure him like Jack Hermansson does, he has this very unorthodox kind of herky-jerky type of style where he's just like in your face, trying to throw big bombs at you and then grab you and then take you down, right? So he's trying to do that. And if Edmen Shahbazyan isn't really that well fighting off his back foot, like if that isn't something that he really worked on in this layoff since his last fight, then I definitely see this being higher than 60%. This is like 80, 90% chance that he goes down to the ground, because Edmen Shahbazyan, that's his main path of victory, man. That right hand is locked and loaded at all times, and if he clips you, you're going to sleep or you're getting knocked down. It is important that I note that Edmen Shahbazyan has the second most knockdown average per fight at like 1.5. So I mean, that's numbers, stats, right? But ultimately, if you're knocking somebody down every single time you fight, there's something that has to be said there. Now, Edmen Shahbazyan is he's a Shotokan karate black belt. He has 5 wins in under 1 minute and 10 first round finishes. But like we said, AJ, we don't really got too much to talk about because Jack Hermansson, he has the third most strikes landed per minute at 185 pounds with 5 significant strikes landed per minute, 10 first round finishes as well, man. So when you get to that top of the heap, these guys are all good, man. Ultimately, I think that we don't really have too much to say here because Jack Hermansson, believe it or not, let me just actually put this lastly. Edmen Shahbazyan averages almost 4.5 takedowns per fight. I don't know where it comes from. I'm really not sure. It's not really necessarily the style. It's the ground and pound. It's not necessarily the style, but I'll just put it out there. Jack Hermansson has a 75% takedown defense. Ultimately, give me your pick, AJ. Who are you rolling with?
Well, I really think this fight comes down to a lot to how each of the fighters has responded to their latest losses. Both of them have losses. Both of them have losses coming from wrestlers. So if they have worked on that aspect, it's going to be a lot more interesting, I think, than we're making it. Because I agree, Hermansson's looking to take it to the ground. Shahbazyan's looking to keep it standing. You know, the powers that be will decide how that goes. But personally, I got Jack Hermansson with a KO TKO round 3. I think it's going to be the same as Edmen Shahbazyan's last fight. Long, dirty, ends up on the ground and pound beat up. Who you got?
I'm going to go with Jack Hermansson here, but I think that this is really more of a prospect running into a buzzsaw again. Like, to me, this is just poor matchmaking. This is someone's manager didn't really do their job, but I will say Edmen Shahbazyan has noted, he was like, I wanted this fight. Like, I'm not scared of this dude. I want this, but I just think that Jack Hermansson, the Joker, has too many weapons, man. The submission game is always there, and as soon as he gets you to the ground, he might heel hook you. He might just ground and pound your face off. If he gets your back flat on the ground in the first round, it's just going to be the beginning of the end right there. So Jack Hermansson, but I'm going to go submission round 2. I think that he gets him out of there via submission. But I will note Edmen Shahbazyan's never been submitted in his career, so it would be impressive for him to do that. But nonetheless, AJ, let's move on to the next bout, which is it's a flyweight bout, not a women's flyweight bout, a regular flyweight bout. And these are some killers right here. We got the Undertaker, number 11th ranked David Dvorak, facing off against a man that you slighted just a little bit in our last week's program, and number 12 ranked Raulian Paiva, man. Listen, this is going to be a really technical battle, AJ. I'm calling this off of the bat. This is going to be a masterclass in terms of just boxing, kickboxing. But there's one main difference that I want to talk about, and I really want to gauge your opinion on this, AJ. So the question that I have for you off the bat is, when it comes down to a technical battle and you have a rangy, long striker who can just kind of volume you up versus a power striker who is also very technical, who do you think generally has the advantage when it comes down to those two type of fighters? Not saying these fighters, but just in general, talking about these types of fighters.
In general, big blanket statement, I think I'd always give the advantage to the technician. You know, they always said that, I believe you're the one that quoted this on this show, Derick, Tim Duncan is the ultimate.
The big fundamental.
That Mr. Fundamental, exactly. Yeah. Thank you. You know, fundamentals, technique, that's what it comes down to. And at the end of the day, that's what's going to win you almost or the majority of your matches is technique. You know how to, the mechanics are right. You know how to do your thing. So I'd give the advantage to that. But the only thing, though, is that X factor of that power, man. You get clipped right on the button. Your body's a machine after all, and you're going to go to sleep. But overall, I'd give the advantage to the technician. What do you think?
Well, let's talk judging really quickly as I incorporate that into this answer, because when you're just watching a fight and you're seeing two dudes going toe for toe, tit for tat, right? And they're getting it, they're getting after it, but one dude just landing slightly harder. For an example, Rogerio Bontorin versus Matt Schnell. Matt Schnell was landing, but it just felt like it was pillow punches. Every time he was touching, it was just kind of pillow punches. When Bontorin would hit him, Schnell would be like, oh God, you know? So when it's like that, that's what I view this fight being like David Dvorak versus Raulian Paiva. Paiva's Paiva's rangy. He's long. Don't get me wrong, man. He's got this very deceptive type of power. So if he just hits you, like he actually, believe it or not, he hit Rogerio Bontorin with a left hook that dropped him prior to him getting his eyebrow sliced open in the fight having to get called. But nonetheless, I just think that David Dvorak has that extra element where every time he hits you, it hurts. Let's not forget this man is on a 15-fight win streak. He's 19-3 overall, but Paiva is 20-3, so it's very similar on paper. And I actually believe that this fight is very, very similar in terms of just on paper, right? So the biggest difference is that Paiva has a 3-inch height advantage, so he's just going to be a little taller. And Paiva is really big for the division as well. But nonetheless, almost identical reach, 68, 69 inches. Strikes landed per minute, 4.5 for both of them, roughly at about a 45% clip for both of them, man. This is going to be a technical battle, man. So when it comes down to it, I noted that David Dvorak is heavy on his lead leg, and that's going to be something that Raulian Paiva can exploit. Do you think that is the one weakness that David Dvorak has? Because when I watch him, I don't see many weaknesses. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I would think that. I really like David Dvorak, man. He keeps a high guard. He has great pressure. I love his attack style, man. He'll feint, leg kick, feint, leg kick, feint, leg kick, and every now and then he'll throw a bomb, and he's got serious power. So I really like him, man. He's a good fighter. If I had to nitpick on anything, yeah, I would agree with that. He does stay a little heavy on that front leg, but it's because he's putting pressure, and when pressure's coming down the pipe, and you just keep getting tagged, it's hard, man. It's really hard to counteract that. Yeah, what do you think?
Well, so I definitely think that that's like the main hole. Like I said, I don't see too many weaknesses with David Dvorak. Neither of these fighters really want to take it to the ground, but Paiva does say, he was all like, listen, man, at the end of the day, like if this dude like wants to go to the ground, I'll use my jiu-jitsu. Let's not forget Paiva. I mean, he's got 3 submission wins. Dvorak has 7, right? Dvorak's more of a finisher than Paiva is, but nonetheless, I wanted to talk about this quote really quickly, AJ, from one of our favorite fighters, because this is just kind of similar to me, right? Because I noted that David Dvorak, he has the timing and the power. That's what I give to him. I give the speed and the precision to Raulian Paiva. Now, this is the quote. This is by Groovy Lando Venata, AJ. The quote goes as such: "Rhythm beats speed, rhythm beats power, rhythm precedes precision, rhythm is everything in combat. Know your opponent's rhythm and cultivate a rhythm of your own that they can't comprehend." And I thought that was really telling, because I was like, I never really thought about that aspect of the game, because that is kind of true, right? If you can just kind of get your rhythm, get your flow going, and make it to where your opponent can't gauge that rhythm, you know what I mean? He can't really get into that flow. That's what we talk about often, right? Don't let these fighters get into their flow state. So with that being said, man, who has the rhythm advantage in this fight, AJ?
Man, I really like that, because it's true, man. You get somebody, and we're all rhythm, you get somebody a little unsynced. It feels weird. You feel off, vibrations and all that hippie jazz. But personally, I give that little rhythm advantage to Dvorak. I liked his flow a little bit better. For me, I was actually giving Paiva the power advantage. I think he was a little more flat-footed. He has that kind of Brazilian style where he'll walk you down and he can bang. That's a big thing. But if Dvorak kind of gets moving and is able to play his game, it's going to be a long night, especially because Paiva is down to play tag. Oh, yeah. So he's down to let you hit him. He's like, come on, man, let's do this. So it'll make for an interesting one. But I'd give that advantage to Dvorak. Who do you give the advantage to?
So believe it or not, I was actually going to give that to Paiva, man, because Paiva has this good sense of kind of cutting off the cage, not really following you around, you know what I mean? And just kind of here, there, range, and it's the range. That's what it is, man. He's long. He's just so big for the weight class. This is 125 pounds, dude. This dude is 5'8". This is just 4 inches shorter than me fighting at 125 pounds. Like that, to me, that's just crazy, because sometimes you'll be like a 5'8" bantamweight. Like, oh, that's kind of interesting, but this is a flyweight. Nonetheless, man, I just want to kind of note out that notable wins by these fighters, right? For David Dvorak, you have Justin Espinosa, right? He hasn't been doing too hot in the UFC so far, but this dude's a gamer, right? Bruno Silva, who got the big win over JP Buys. That's definitely a big win. And then for Raulian Paiva, our boy, or not necessarily our boy, but I'm a big fan of this dude who's about to fight our other boy, right? Zalgis Zumagulov, right, who is about to fight Jerome Rivera in just a couple of weeks, man. Shout out. Santa Fe, New Mexico represent, you know what I'm saying? But this is a Kazakhstanian who has nothing to play with, so that's a big win. And then Mark De La Rosa having a win over that. I mean, those are pretty big, right? So I think let's just wrap this one up, man. I will say, because I completely forgot for the last one, but I promise I'm on it from here on out. Minus 155 favorite is David the Undertaker Dvorak with the plus 130 comeback of Raulian Paiva. And lastly, before you give me your pick, man, I just want to note this out because I think it's kind of cool. David Dvorak's nickname is the Undertaker because he was literally a mortician. That was his day job. He was literally an Undertaker. So shout out to him. You know what I'm saying? But give me your pick, AJ. Who are you going with?
Shout out. Real quick, I wanted to add Derick, 5'8", fighting at 125. I'm 5'8", and I weigh 170.
Yeah, that's,
That's absolutely insane that this dude's fighting at that weight class, man. That's fucking crazy. But personally, you said it before. I slid him a little bit last week, but I got to go with him this week. I'm going Paiva, KO round 2. I don't think either fighter has much to worry about as far as takedowns. I'm really hoping for a crazy battle back and forth because these dudes can bring it. Who you got and why, Derek?
I think that this like has all the makings for it. Like it could be a fight of the night, but I don't think it will be. And the reason why is because I think that this is going to be a very technical battle where sometimes one of them might not want to go, and it's going to be a lot of looking in the mirror and a lot of just sitting there, just faint. You know, that Mike Perry, just faint. You know what I mean? Just all that, right? So I'm going David Dvorak, unanimous decision. I think he gets the job done, man. But it's going to be a good fight. This is a really good matchup, and I think this matchup was slated a couple weeks ago or something, got canceled, and now that's why we're here on this card. But nonetheless, let's move on to the next one, and this is actually, AJ, there's something special about this bout right here. It's a women's featherweight bout between Felicia Spencer and Norma Dumont. But I believe, AJ, if I'm not mistaken, this will be the last women's featherweight contest in UFC history. There's nothing lined up right now in the meantime. Everywhere I look, there's no women's featherweight matchups. There's no, you know what I mean, rankings for the women's featherweight. Clearly, there never really have been. But if this is the case, man, Norman Dumont was saying something in a pre-fight interview talking about, like, the PI said maybe she can't really make 135. And Megan Anderson has also kind of hinted at being like, all right, she might be done with the UFC, man. So if this is the last women's featherweight contest, I don't know what the implications of this bout are. You know, it doesn't really mean anything, right? Because if anything, these fighters are either going to move down or you're going to go to a different promotion. Nonetheless, let's talk about it. Felicia Spencer is coming off of a title loss to Amanda Nunes. Fun fact right here, AJ. Felicia Spencer has spent more time fighting Amanda Nunes and Chris Cyborg collectively than Ronda Rousey did in her both professional and amateur careers. Kind of crazy, huh?
That's crazy. That was actually one fact I wanted to point out. When's the last time you've heard Amanda Nunes got took in all 5 rounds?
I know, yeah. So that's, I mean, if we say anything about Felicia Spencer, we just underline it with exclamation points, durable. The definition of durable. You know what I'm saying? But is that what you want to be known for when you're a fighter? Do you want to be known as tough and durable? Because last time I checked, being tough is actually like it's a disrespectful thing to say. You don't want to say, oh, that's a tough fighter right there. That just means you get hit a lot. You know what I'm saying? But nonetheless, man, let's break this down. Felicia Spencer and Norma Dumont are both 30 years old, but there's a big difference in their fighting styles, right? So one of the big differences, AJ, is that Felicia Spencer is a Taekwondo black belt and a BJJ black belt. But if you look at her striking, to me, it's not that impressive. There's much to be desired in her striking. It's just kind of throw stuff out there, you know what I mean? But she's really looking to take you, like grab you, put you on the ground, and smash your face in. Very similar to Jack Hermansson, right? Now, Norma Dumont is a Sonda black belt. And I have to ask you this, AJ. Do you know what Sonda is?
I had to look it up and still couldn't figure it out.
So Sonda is, because it's traditionally, it was supposed to be like Chinese military, basically Chinese boxing, Chinese kickboxing. But what it is truly is it's more or less kind of like a Vale Tudo, right? This is like Chinese freestyle fighting is more or less what it is, because it strikes, takedowns, grappling, the whole 9. Now, what's important about Norma Dumont is she is a Sonda black belt and a BJJ brown belt, but she's a 6-time Sonda state champion and a Sonda national champion. So she spent a lot of time with this martial art specifically, which is probably lended a lot better to her MMA career than a Taekwondo would, right? Because Taekwondo, yeah, you're nice with your feet and all that. You can kick someone in the head, but can you punch them? You know what I'm saying? I don't know. We'll see. Nonetheless, let's set the table, AJ. So this is going to be a really, really interesting bout because Felicia Spencer, I mean, come on, man. She just suffered her second loss of her career. Only losses are to Amanda Nunes and Chris Cyborg, but she's kind of been hailed as this individual who's ready for that spotlight. I don't know if it's because the 145 division is just that shallow or she's that good, but either way, man, when you fight for a title, automatically you're going to be favored in your next fight, whether you win or lose. Am I right? Is that something wrong to say, or do you think that there's a little bit of hype going into this fight simply because she fought Amanda Nunes in her last fight and didn't get finished? That's even more points for her, right?
I think it comes down to that latter fact. I think the fact that she took Amanda Nunes and Chris Cyborg I don't know if the Cyborg fight was all 5 rounds.
That was, yeah.
Or 3.
No.
It was?
It was a championship fight.
Yeah, so 5 rounds.
No, just kidding. That was 3 rounds. That was not a championship fight, yes.
But still, taking Chris Cyborg 3 rounds, taking Amanda Nunes 5 rounds and not getting knocked out at all is absolutely insane. I think that's really what's kind of pushing the drive. Because other than that, what do you really hear of Felicia Spencer?
You don't hear too much other than she was a former Invicta champion, which is totally tight, man. But Invicta is not the UFC, right? And that's just kind of how you get your shot. One thing that I noted here, AJ, is that in terms of like the striking, right? Like I said, there's much to be desired for Felicia Spencer, in my opinion, personally. But for Norma Dumont, man, she holds this confidence. I don't know where it comes from, man, because she's majority of her career has been fought out of Brazil, right? This will only be her third fight out of Brazil in her entire career. But she has this confidence where she'll fight anybody and she thinks that she could beat them. And that's important when it comes to this game, right? Because let's not forget, her UFC debut was against Megan Anderson, right? So that's literally a tall task right there that she did not pass because she got stiffed. First loss of her career, she got knocked out by Megan Anderson, flatlined, right? But she was still confident. That's what's important. She moves on to her next fight with Ashley Evans-Smith, who is a veteran, no longer with the promotion, I believe. Nonetheless, she got a big unanimous decision win. That was very, very big. And it goes to show Dumont got those tree trunk thighs, man. She's strong, bro. So when Felicia Spencer, let's just break this down really quickly because I don't think there's really too much to go into this fight. Felicia Spencer, basically her game plan, she wants to get you in the clinch and she wants to take you down, right? Well, Norma Dumont is very, very strong on the clinch and she's very well versed on the ground. Who has the advantage in this fight, man? Because when it comes to the striking, I think Dumont has the advantage there. So overall, who holds the advantage in your eyes?
Well, I definitely agree with you right there. I think Dumont has the striking advantage, or at least what we've seen. She definitely has the striking advantage of what we've seen. But I'm curious as to what Felicia Spencer's been working on outside of, the whole COVID era and all that stuff. Because she did have an armbar loss. I forgot what
It's against Megan Anderson?
like production it is. Yeah. What was it a SUG or whatever? But regardless, she has been practicing the jiu-jitsu, so she's working that. But that was always her strongest game. Has she been working the hands? Has she been working the stand-up? Working a little bit more in the clinch? Because Norma Dumont is very well-rounded and very dangerous on both, on both aspects. So personally, me, and this might just be a little favoritism because I actually like Norma Dumont as a fighter. She reminds me of a bigger, oh man, who's the new Macy Barber. The future Macy Barber. She's a bigger, stronger Macy Barber, and I like that fight style. So I would give her the advantage overall. But I'm very curious to see how Felicia Spencer has progressed in her striking, if she has it all. Who would you give the advantage to?
Well, this is one of those things where we talk about, right? How are these fighters going to react to these big losses? You know what I mean? Like, are you going to try to force the action in your next fight? Are you going to come out and try to slow things down a little bit? Are you going to take the Cody Garbrandt approach where against Rafael Assunção, he looked like a brand new fighter? It just really depends. And obviously that's our job, is to kind of try to make these predictions and try to see. But ultimately, I think that Norma Dumont is being overlooked in this fight. I think Felicia Spencer's probably like, well, I fought Amanda Nunes and Cyborg. What is this? Who is this, right? And I think that's going to be a very grave mistake because Norma Dumont holds that confidence. Like I said, confidence means a lot, man. It's an intangible, but it means a lot. Nonetheless, I'm going Norma Dumont, man. I'm going a decision win simply because if you look at both of these fighters, Norma Dumont's never knocked anyone out in her career, but then again, only 6 fights. And also, Norma Dumont, in only 2 fights in the UFC, she has 100% takedown defense. So it's something that's kind of important right there, right? So I'm going Norma Dumont, unanimous decisions, but it'll be interesting, especially because, like I noted before, AJ, this is literally, this is going to be, the last featherweight fight? What does this fight mean? I don't know. Anyways, let's move on to some heavyweights, man, some big boys. Another reason, AJ, I have no idea why this fight is here in the middle of this card like this, but I understand, but I don't understand. The reason why I understand is because Justin Tafa, who does he not want to fight? Somebody who's going to try to take him down to the ground the entire time. This dude averages no takedowns, no submissions, none of that. Jared Vanderaa, what happened in his last fight against Sergey Spivak? He got taken to the ground and got his face smashed in. He talked about a lack of focus and things of that nature going on in that bout. Like, he was literally looking up at the lights and being like, oh yeah, I'm getting punched in the face right now. I should probably focus, right? Never really want to see that happen. But neither of these fighters, I think, are going to the ground. I truly don't believe. I think it's going to be a straight up stand-up war. And for that reason, I think that's why we're placed here on the middle of this card, because it's 2 heavyweights. Someone's going to sleep. I don't have much to say on this, AJ, but I do want to note, and I messed up on the odds. I didn't talk about the odds in the last fight. God damn it. It's all right. Justin Tafa opens up as a minus 200 favorite, folks, with a plus 170 comeback for Jared Vanderaa, the mountain man versus the bad man. So when we're talking about experience, this one's important again. Jared Vanderaa has roughly about 25 overall fights between his amateur and his pro career. Justin Tafa has 6. Big difference. However, Justin Tafa strikes me as the man. I'm a big fan of this guy. Don't get me wrong. He strikes me as the type of individual who says, I don't care who you are, sign the contract and I'll fight you. It does not matter. And that's what we love and we respect that, right? But real quickly, AJ, because like I said, I don't want to spend too much time. I want to spend a lot of time on our main event and our co-main event. I want to ask you this. When it comes down to it, if this is a stand-ups, just striking affair, the big things that we need to watch for is Jared Vanderaa is 4 inches taller than Justin Tafa, 6 foot to 6'4", and Jared Vanderaa has a 6-inch reach advantage advantage from 80 inches to 74 inches. Both of these dudes can knock your lights out with one punch. The main difference, though, is how does Justin Tafa close that distance, dude? Like, how do you do it? That's going to be the reason why I pick who I pick in this fight. But just give me your take, AJ.
Yeah, no, I think that's the biggest challenge is getting inside, because you're right. Vanderaa has an 80-inch reach, Tafa with the 74. That's a hell of a 6 inches. It's a hell of a gap to try to maintain while you have a dude who weighs 265 pounds punching you in the face, right? But yeah, man, I like this one is a hard one to me, because in the Survey Spivak fight with Vanderaa, he was supposed to be this good college wrestler, come up, be able to hold himself down in the wrestling mat, and just got absolutely controlled by Spivak in his last fight. It almost looked like a black belt fighting a white belt, just absolutely demolishing him. So I personally think that Vanderaa might come out and just try to prove that he is a good wrestler. Now, is that the easy route to victory against Tafa? Yeah, probably. But Tafa also has very, very good takedown defense. And if he's in the fight, if he's motivated, man, he's a brawler. Like, he's very hard to hit. He's also very smooth, fast. He's one of the very few big men who throw punches in bunches, but also can drop you no problem. He keeps his guard high, but the problem is he could just start getting a little complacent and not really excited about the fight. And we saw that in the Felipe fight, where he was getting tagged down the pipe. He even had the guard up. He was just willing to just let Tafa touch the guard. But until Tafa started realizing he throws straights down the pipe, and he was just connecting. And, keeping your guard up and letting somebody hit you is fine and all when you're throwing baseballs like me and you, Derick. But when you got big boys throwing, ham hocks down the pipe, it doesn't really work out that well. So that's my biggest thing for Tafa. Is he going to be able to be focused and in the fight? And if Vanderaa starts shooting takedowns, we'll be able to defend him. But I'm man, this one's actually very exciting for me, because I really like Tafa. And I think if he's able to compose himself, he's one of the most well-rounded fighters on the come up we've seen so far. Give me your thoughts.
Well, I'm absolutely with you. I honestly think that Justin Tafa kind of got robbed out of his last fight against Felipe Lins. I thought that Tafa won the fight, but he took it like a champ. He was just like, oh, okay, no problem. He reminds me, and it's unfair, right, because they're of similar regions, right? But he reminds me of Bam Bam, Tai Tuivasa, you know what I mean? These dudes were just game. They're just like, all right, we'll fight, that's fine. And you want me next? Okay, let's do it. Line it up. It does not matter. As long as I get to go drink a beer after this, like, we're all good. So I just want to note this, man. Jared Vanderaa, he trains with Dominic Reyes and Sam Alvey over there at Team Quest, right? So he has a good training camp. You know what I mean? I think that he's really going to be pushing. He talked about in his pre-fight, like I said, the lack of focus and things of that nature. And he's actually a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt. And he was all like, yeah, man, I'm supposed to be this black belt. It's like, I didn't show it in my last fight, but like, I am a black belt technically, you know what I mean? And he earned his shot after getting a knockout win over Harry Hunsucker. And if that name sounds familiar, that's the man who got destroyed in like 30 seconds against Tai Tuivasa. It was a short notice fight. He shouldn't have been in there with him, but nonetheless, that's how you got into the UFC. It's just telling. It doesn't look good now. It didn't age well, I guess I should say. Ultimately, the former rugby player in his youth who played for the Melbourne Storm in Justin Tafa has a good shot of winning this fight, and he is a former Australian Extreme Fighting Championship heavyweight champion. All wins via KO. Give me your pick, AJ.
Yeah, I'm with you, Derick. I think Tafa won his last fight, and I'm actually going with him again, man. He lives and dies by the KO, even though his last fight was a decision. It shouldn't have been, because they were swinging for the fences, right? And when most fighters, they start winning the fight like Tafa was, they get on their bike, start riding around, not really wanting to get hit. Where Tafa, you can hear his bike squeaking all the way down the block, just like he's Debo coming. And just like that, he's Debo coming to get your money, man. So I'm going Tafa, KO, round one, making it an early fight. It's going to be fun. Who you got and why?
Listen, man, he's a southpaw, and they call him the bad man for a reason. But even with that being said, I'm giving the mountain man, Jared Vanderaa, one more opportunity to stay out of my doghouse. Now, my doghouse doesn't mean anything. What does that even mean? Ultimately, what I'm saying here is I think that Jared Vanderaa still has a lot of promise, and I think that you can't give up on a fighter after one fight. He's 0-1 in his UFC career. It's literally his debut. So now he's been under the bright lights. Let's see what happens. But I'm going with a knockout win, man. Jared Vanderaa, round 2 knockout. I don't see how this fight goes the distance. If this fight goes to the distance, then they're hugging the whole entire fight, and I don't anticipate that. So with that being said, man, we can move on to our co-main event, man. And this has implications, AJ. This is number 3 ranked Yan Xiaonan facing off against the Cookie Monster, number 4 ranked Carla Esparza. But when I say this has implications, it's because one of these fighters expects with a win that she will be fighting and rematching somebody she's already beaten, which is Rose Namajunas. So Carla Esparza, people don't know this. First Invicta strawweight champion in history, first UFC strawweight champion in history. Since the division has been a thing, Carla Esparza is the first champ. One of her first wins, it was the Ultimate Fighter, actually. Ultimate Fighter 20, she beat Rose Namajunas via submission to win that fight, man. So it's kind of crazy because of what Rose has been doing now. And when Carla Esparza is asked about it, she says, yeah, man, I'm glad Rose is doing good. It just makes me really look better if you really think about it, that like I already handled a champion like that, a two-time champion, someone who's destroyed one of the greatest strawweights in history in Joanna Jędrzejczyk. Nonetheless, AJ, let's really just get into this thing, man. I think that this is going to be another one of those clash of styles where you got a 11-fight win streak and a minus 150 favorite in Yan Xiaonan, facing off against somebody who I consider a live dog, someone who I consider has a way higher likelihood of winning in Carla Esparza, man. How do you take a NAIA All-American wrestler at Menlo Park, and she shares that distinction with Ashley Evans Smith? How do you take a wrestler of that magnitude, somebody who has the most takedowns in the division at 115 pounds with 39 takedowns, and the second most wins at 115 pounds with 10? How do you make her the underdog against a striker, against a Yan Xiaonan who is a great striker, but that's basically where her game lives and dies, in the striking on the stand-up? How is she an underdog? Just explain it to me, AJ.
I think this one fully comes down to media bias. Media bias and what have you done for me lately? Because even though Carla Esparza is on a 4-fight win streak, it's been 2 split decision losses that, depending on the type of fight you like to see, hasn't been the most exciting. Even in the Marina Rodriguez fight, she was taking Rodriguez down the whole time, but was getting cut up with elbows. So you could see even one of the judges, as much as Esparza was controlling top position, one of the judges gave the fight to Rodriguez, which just leads to show that like people out there hate seeing, people just hugging each other out. So I genuinely think that's what it is media bias, being like, yo, we have seen this girl fight for so many years. Her last 2 probably shouldn't have won. So they're giving it to the young Xiaonan, which is very exciting, man. Yan Xiaonan is a banger. Like she's like what I wrote was she's a piston. Like this girl is a piston, nonstop, full grip, except her ground game got exposed in the Gadelha fight. And of the 2, Derick, who would you say is a better wrestler, Carla Esparza or Claudia Gadelha? That face says it all. Yeah, Carla Esparza, man. Like I don't think there's any way, unless the only thing though, Yan Xiaonan, she's fighting out of China, so they're getting those reps in on the mat. They don't want her to go out there and get embarrassed, so she's probably going to have a good wrestling game. But when somebody who shoots at Carla Esparza, where she knows it's the 4th or the 5th shot that's going to take you down and is fantastic in the sprawl, does that and gets you down on the ground, it's a long night, seeing how Yan is very complacent once her back hits the mat. What do you think? I'm with you in your assessment right there, dude. I just think that Carla Esparza knows her path to victory, and when you have a potential title eliminator on the line, which is what this fight is serving as, why would you do anything else? You know what I mean? So it's like, this is one of those situations where this is like Jack Hermansson versus Edmen Shahbazyan to me, where I'm just like, if Yan can keep the fight on the feet, she has a very, very great chance of winning the fight. Now, let me point this out, though, AJ. When Carla Esparza, when she fought Michelle Waterson, the karate hottie, she tried to get her to the ground and didn't really work out, so she had to fight a stand-up battle against Michelle Waterson, ended up winning the fight. And that was a split decision win as well, though. So this is the one thing that I was noting that is the downside for Carla Esparza, is her last 3 wins have been split decision over Mahina Rodriguez, split decision over Michelle Waterson, majority decision over Alexa Grasso. Those are all splits, man. Majorities and splits. You flip those around and you're not fighting for anything close to resembling a title. You're on a 3-fight losing skid, right? Nonetheless, man, we can't sit there and knock her, man. She's a BJJ brown belt, man. She got 3 knockouts, 4 submissions, and 10 decisions throughout her career. We know strawweights, they're not really known for knocking people out like that. But Yan Xiaonan, she got 5 knockouts and 8 decisions, no submissions, only been submitted once. But I want to ask you before we wrap this up, AJ, what are the odds that we saw what happened in recent history? If we're talking about what have you done for me lately, we saw what happened just a few pay-per-views ago when a big stable of Chinese fighters who are either making their debut or having their second fight in the UFC, or 3rd or 4th or 5th or whatever, right? We saw what happened when they had their pressure on them and how they performed. Did they perform well? Actually, no, they all lost. I think every single one of the Chinese fighters lost, except maybe one, but I'm pretty sure all of them lost, man. So how much does the pressure, how much pressure is on Yan Xiaonan to win this fight? Her nickname is Fury. She gonna bring the Fury, even though she looks scared before every fight. But how much pressure is on her in this fight? Man, I think a lot. I genuinely think that's one thing that I noted too, especially with the way China goes about their sports. They put everything into it, and it's like family honor is on the line. And being the fact that most of the Chinese fighters lost in the last outing, and it was a pretty big sweep. I don't know if it was a sweep or not. I'm not sure with you, Derek, but it was like 4-5. Like it was a crazy amount of losses. You didn't expect it coming. So I imagine them working at the and I don't know if she works at the Chinese PI. I was also trying to look up her camp and got lost in this crazy Chinese rabbit hole with the other rabbit hole we were talking about. But man, if they're able to work that, it's going to be very interesting going forward. I definitely think there's a lot of not only media pressure but country pressure that's going to have to be on Yan Xiaonan's shoulders, and it's quite a lot, man.
Yeah, man. And I will say, so Yan Xiaonan, she trains at China Top Team, and she's also a Sonda fighter, Sonda and a BJJ fighter, which is interesting, shout out to her. But what's interesting to me is that Carla Esparza, I wanted to flip it. And I said, well, if Carla Esparza loses this fight, like, what are the odds of her getting back to that title? She's kind of old. And then I looked at her age. She's only 33. That's scary, dude. Like, she's only 33. So if you lose, you can still come back and fight for that championship eventually, right? And you have 31-year-old Yan Xiaonan. So that's even double pressure because it's like, all right, you're in the prime of your career, man. You're on a crazy 11-fight win streak, 6-0 in the UFC. But I will note, man, that's what's interesting, right, AJ? I talk about, 5 knockouts, right? She has no finishes in the UFC. So it's like, how much do those knockouts really mean? You know what I'm saying? At the end of the day, man, this is going to be a really, really interesting fight. And I will note, lastly, Yan Xiaonan is the first female fighter that was signed to, first female Chinese fighter signed to the UFC before Weili Zhang. So, I mean, listen, man, she didn't get the respect she deserved because Weili Zhang got the championship and just kind of surpassed her like that. But I do think that she can be a future champion. I think if Yan Xiaonan gets the ground game right, she can be a future champion. Nonetheless, AJ, give me your pick. Who are you going with and why?
Man, I'm going Yan by decision, and no disrespect to the great Carla Esparza, but I think this is a case of new school versus old school. And even though, like you said, she's only 33, but there's a lot of miles on those 33 years in the UFC, man. She's fighting some crazy people, especially getting KO'd by our girl who we were talking about before, Tatiana Suarez. She's had a lot of fights, you know what I'm saying? So it does add up. Esparza subscribes to the tried and true, keep them down, beat them up, position over submission kind of aspect. But if that's not going to happen in this fight, I think she's in for a long haul. And we even saw in the Yan fight against Claudia Gadelha, even though she was able to be taken down, she was able to get up off of her back for the most part. Sometimes she did get a little complacent, but she was able to turn the tide and get the dub. That's what it matters at the end of the day. And I see the same thing happening here. Yan by decision. Who you got and why?
I'm with you, but this is going to be simple for me. Carla Esparza takes her down in the first round, and we see some more takedowns in the second and some more in the third. Unanimous decision win for Carla Esparza. It's just a takedown clinic. It's not going to be an exciting fight, folks. This is not my fight of the night. I will say that. But Yan Xiaonan, I'll tell you what, man, she's not going to go down without a fight. That's one thing that I know. I'm a big, big fan of her, man. Like I said, fury is no joke. But when you got a wrestler, when you control where the fight takes place, you control the fight, right? That's the old proverb that we talk about the wrestlers, man. But all right, AJ, it's the main event. But this main event is we got a question sponsored by our boy Syke. He brought us back again for another one. And this is a big, big question right here. So shout out to you, Syke, because he noted, do you think Cody Garbrandt can stay cool, calm, and collected and not get into a firefight with Rob Font? And that's really the golden question right there, is it not, AJ? So let me pull this one down. Cody Garbrandt is known for the brawls. He's known for seeing red. There's the meme all over the internet where he gets tagged and the screen goes red and he just starts going for violence, going for blood. And that's part of what made him so unpredictable and so crazy, right? Maybe not unpredictable, kind of predictable after a while. You keep seeing red, right? But that's also what led to him beating Dominic Cruz, winning the Bantamweight belt, and then losing 3 fights by knockout in a row, which is the last thing you want if you're a champion. However, it is interesting to note that the number 3 ranked Rob Font, the minus 125 favorite in Rob Font with the plus 105 comeback on Cody Garbrandt. And this is the odds that have opened up on the week, AJ. He's got more MMA experience than Cody Garbrandt, which is kind of a weird thing to say because we kind of grew up with Cody Garbrandt because of the Team Alpha Male versus TJ Dillashaw rivalry, because of just all the hype and the shine you get by being a champion or a title contender, right? Nonetheless, Rob Font is 18-4 in his MMA career, 8-3 in the UFC. So he actually has one more win than Cody Cody Garbrandt does in the UFC and the same amount of losses. However, all losses are not equal, all wins are not equal, and I'll tell you what, by dethroning Dominic Cruz, getting a big win over Rafael Assunção, those are big wins, man. And Cody Garbrandt looked like a brand new fighter in his last fight. So let's break it down, AJ. Give me your thoughts on this matchup, man. How do you see this fight playing out? And listen, yeah, just give me that. What do you think?
Man, well, first shout out to Syke for giving us some questions, man. And just to answer that, I think that is like you said, the golden question. Because if Cody Garbrandt is able to maintain his emotions, I genuinely think he's one of the pound for pound best fighters in the UFC.
Yeah.
Now, could be a stretch, could be not. He's definitely top 5. We'll see. Because man, the switch he made after the Cody Garbrandt made after the Munoz fight to fight Assunção was like night and day, man. That was the Cody we wanted to see, the Cody that fought Dominic Cruz, the one that we wanted to see fight Dillashaw, but we didn't get that. So now fighting Rob Font, man, Rob Font is the epitome of a sleeper fighter. Yes. Like we don't know much about this dude. He's not too much media presence. He's fighting out of the New England Cartel, so he's got hands. Like there's so much media around this dude, but nobody's giving him any attention. Nobody's saying Font, like nobody, I could go ask, 10 out of 10 strangers on the street. Nobody's going to be like, what Font? Like who, like typing? What do you mean? But that being said, this dude is like a scrapper, bro. This dude is such a good fighter. He arguably out-wrestled Ricky Simón. Now, not in the first round, but the second and third, there's a great argument that he out-wrestled him. Now, like I said, in the first, he absolutely got destroyed. But that being said, he also proved that he can drop bombs. And that's one of the biggest things, man. That Moraes fight, that Moraes KO knockout, who else have we seen done that to Moraes? I think it was Sanhagen.
A couple of people now, yeah.
A couple of people now. But in the past, when Moraes was, on top of the game, that's an old vet that he took out. So ultimately, at the end of the day, both fighters are very, very dangerous. What comes down to it is I think Font needs to get in his rhythm. If Font can fight his fight and not let Garbrandt take over like Garbrandt does, that's his style. He's going to take over and control the fight. If Font can prevent that, he's going to have a good night. But if not, man, it's going to be a fun fight for us to watch with Cody Garbrandt doing what he does best. What do you think?
Well, I'm with you, and I guess let me answer the question as well. Will Cody Garbrandt be able to stay out of a firefight? Against Rafael Assunção, yes, right? He did. He ultimately did. Against Rob Font, I don't think so. And here's the reason why, AJ. Cody Garbrandt against Rafael Assunção is kind of unique in the way that he can stalk you, right? He's just stalking you, cutting off the cage, right? But he's not throwing anything. He's just kind of in front of you, just watching. And you got to be careful against Cody Garbrandt, dude, because this dude is lightning fast. This dude is so fast. It's ridiculous, right? So I give the power advantage in this fight to Rob Font, but I give the speed advantage to Cody Garbrandt, even though Cody Garbrandt can knock your goddamn head off with a punch if he needs to, man. We saw the buzzer beater against Assunção, man. That was just right hand on the chin, just sleep, right? Ultimately, Rob Font, man, this is what I want you to do, AJ. I'm calling it right now. This is my prediction. I talked about it on the betting show, folks, so if this is redundant, I apologize, but I'm calling it right now. After the first round of this fight, AJ, I want you to take a look at Cody Garbrandt's right eye, and I want you to tell me whether it's going to be completely bruised and battered or if it's going to be flawlessly clean, because I'm predicting it's going to be bloody, bruised, battered, and because what's more annoying, AJ, in sparring, right? What's more annoying than the dude who just jabs your face off the entire fight? Like every time you throw, you're just getting popped, pop, right? You don't want that. You don't want to deal with that. And how do you respond to that? Generally speaking, you say, I got to get this motherfucker back, bro. Move your head. That's probably the better idea. And Cody Garbrandt has a really, really good head movement. But Rob Font, man, he's got a reach advantage, a big one. He's got a 6-inch reach advantage, 71 inches to 65 for Cody Garbrandt. And if we talk about what does he do against every fighter? What did he do against a big win against Sergio Pettis, who is now, that win aged great because Sergio Pettis is the Bellator Bantamweight champion now. What did he do in that fight? Just sitting there right in front of him, jab, right there. And you're right, you got to get into that rhythm. But I'll tell you what, Rob Font has a very underrated chin, man. We've seen this dude get hit by just ridiculous shots and just all right, and keep walking forward. Not all right and see red and start swinging for the fences, but just being composed and being like, okay, this dude's got that great boxing stance and all that, man. It's going to be a good one. AJ, last thing that I want to know, Cody Garbrandt, let me not disrespect the man. I feel like I'm not, but let me still just extra not disrespect the man. This dude is 31-1 as an amateur boxer, and that's actually how he got his nickname No Love, is because it was somebody like a family friend was all like, damn, you don't show those dudes no love when you fight them, right? That's Cody Garbrandt. And if he could fight a very calm, technical, composed fight like he did against Dominic Cruz, that's the fight that we keep, the performance we want to see emulated time and time again, dude could win this fight. But the other element that Rob Font has, right? Because Rob Font, generally speaking, likes to use his hands. He does have some kicks, but I'll tell you what, AJ, what do you know about Rob Font and how he mixes in his takedowns with his pressure? And as soon as he gets to that takedown, what does he do, generally speaking? He grabs onto your arm for the arm lock, man. And that's the element right there. Rob Font is a BJJ brown belt. He's a white Mongol in Muay Thai, which means almost nothing. It's like a very beginner, basic level of Muay Thai in terms of the ranking system. But that BJJ brown belt is going to be important because grappling is different than wrestling, and Cody Garbrandt is the NCAA Division II college wrestler at Newberry College, right? But nonetheless, man, that's the sneaky thing. Rob Font is on you, pressing you, and we've seen Cody Garbrandt is very, very, he'll be fine to go on the back foot and just fight off of his back foot. That's no problem for him, right? But Rob Font presses you, and then just like uses his momentum to knock you over, you know what I mean? And then gets on top of you, then grabs your back, then grabs the arm. So that's really the aspect right there that I think is going to come into play, because on the striking, it's very even, but it's indifferent. They have different strengths on the feet, right? Ultimately, man, give me a response on that, and then let's drop our picks because we're running out of time here.
Yeah, man, I agree with you 100% in that. And I actually think for that reason, Font is very sneaky. You don't even know until like go watch that third round of the Ricky Simone fight. You'll see exactly what I'm talking about, where this dude can get in the mix up and go up and down. Doesn't matter where this fight's taking place, and he'll hurt you. But this one, man, this one's a hard one for me to judge. This was a coin toss. I genuinely think it's going to come down to who shows up that night. If No Love shows up, bro, it's going to be a fun fight and an early KO. But if Font can get in his rhythm and keep Garbrandt kind of frustrated and not necessarily maybe seeing red, but more so just off that rhythm, off that game like we were talking about earlier, I think Font's gonna get the dub. But personally, me, I'm going for a Garbrandt KO round 4. It's going to be an interesting. Who are you taking and why?
Listen, man, this is one of the toughest methodologies that I've had to think about, right? Because I'm like, Cody Garbrandt has a button, and that's the thing we know. He's been knocked out a lot recently. So you know when the button is there, you just got to tap it. You just got to hit it at the right time. One thing we know about Rob Font is this dude's been hit by everything and has never been stopped, never been knocked out in a fight, right? He's been submitted once in his career, never been knocked out in a fight. So for that reason, I think we get a fight of the night contender right here, and I'm going to go the other way, AJ. I'm going a TKO win for Rob Font, round 4. Come on, man. I think someone's got to go to sleep in this one, man. It would be a disservice if no one went to sleep. The last thing that I want to note for this one, AJ, is that I talked about Rafael Assunção, right? Rob Font, actually, that's his last loss, is to Rafael Assunção. He lost a unanimous decision, and Cody Garbrandt knocked the man out. So that's always something you got to take into consideration. But nonetheless, man, it's going to be a great, great fight, folks. So let's move on to the last piece of business, AJ.
And now, the all factors considered fight of the night picks are in.
All right, let me go first, AJ, because, I got a sneaky one right here, man. So I got 2 of them. Obviously, this one, the main event, right? Rob Font, Cody Garbrandt. How can that not be fight of the night contender? But another sneaky one is my sleeper. Court McGee against Claudio Silva, man. This has all the makings of an absolute war, pressure on each other's back, man. It's going to be a good one. That's my fight of the night pick, AJ. Who's yours?
Yeah, Derick, that's gonna be a banger. But I'm going kind of a weird one too, man. I'm actually taking your sleeper as well. Joshua Coulibaly versus Yalan Shah or however you pronounce that name. Either way, it's gonna be a lot of fun, man. That fight's gonna be fireworks. Watch out, like I said, watch out for Coulibaly. He's coming.
Absolutely. And just a little bit of business before we get out of here, AJ. Bellator 259, folks, this is dropping. This episode is out on a Friday. That means Bellator is about to come on in just a couple of hours and whatnot. A couple notable bouts you need to watch out for. This is a very stacked Bellator card, which is actually not very... it's not very common, to be just honest with you. You know what I mean? Bellator is basically top heavy. Prelims is a little rough. Nonetheless, we have Hollow Point Janae Harding facing off against the Curse Leah McCourt, 145-pound featherweight women's matchup. Man, it's going to be a good one. Tune in for that one. Then we also have Mr. Paige Van Zandt, Austin Vanderford facing off against Fabian Edwards in a 185-pound bout. Man, that's going to be a good one. Austin Vanderford is legitimately a very, very good fighter, man. He's not fighting at 170 anymore. He moved up, so you got a little bit of of extra, you know what I mean, feel good in you. And this dude's gonna make some noise, man. And then lastly, of course, you can see it if you see my little board in the back. I got the Bellator main card lineup right there. We got Chris Cyborg facing off against Leslie Smith. This is a rematch that's 5 years in the making. The first time they fought was in the UFC, actually, man. So this is for the featherweight championship over there in Bellator. It's going to be a banger. But Leslie, you know what I'm saying? Let's just get out of here, AJ. Drop a like, subscribe, do all of the good stuff that you know what to do. AllFactorsConsidered.com, at AllFactorsConsidered on Instagram. And then listen, man, you know what time. Just subscribe. Just drop the button, yellow little notification bell, all the good stuff, man. But listen, folks, that's all we got for you this week. Until next time, mess with us on Monday for our post show recapping the action. Peace.